When was the last time that you asked someone how they were doing and you meant it? Or how about this? When was the last time you asked someone how things are going and they said, I am great. I've got so much spare time, so much free time. I had money left over at the end of the month and everything is like, if it got any better, I don't know what I would do. It's like, oh, I know what I would do. I would punch you. Because you're just rubbing it in. That's how we're so stretched and we're so busy that when things are going well for somebody else, it's offensive to us. Anybody stressed right now because holidays are here? You're going to spend more time with your family. For some of you, that's like any time with them is more time. I love my family. They're great people. I love being around my family. They almost always encourage me. I just don't like driving. Because when I'm driving, I'm in a race. Now, if Tracy's driving, she's in a faster race. But she's not in here right now. Thought you were leaving. Well, if you've tried keeping up with her, you know. You can't. And so we're stressed right now, though. Holidays are here. The house needs some work done on it. The kids have things going on. They're in sports. They're in school. Everything is going crazy. And so our schedules are just stressed. There's financial stress all around. Did I mention the holidays are here? And we don't know how to not spend too much money during the holidays especially. It's just like that's what we do. It's like if we had a degree in anything, it's spending too much money. And yeah, some of you are there. You're with me on that. And what I've noticed is like the blasted bill people, those people who write bills and send them to you in the mail, holidays mean nothing to them. It's like, hadn't you heard of Christmas? You should give me a month off. Bills are still coming. You're not sure about your job maybe. And so financial stress, it's here. And it's killing us. And then we get overwhelmed because we're living at this unsustainable, unbiblical pace. Our kids are even overwhelmed. Some of you, you've got 3 or 4 nights a week where you've got ball games or you've got other events that you're doing. You're doing cheer stuff. You're doing whatever competition that it is, band things and all this stuff. And I'm just like, haven't you heard of like cartoons? What happened to that? Go home after school and watch Saved by the Bell. I know. And now you're like, you go home and you can't watch Saved by the Bell. It's sad. And then we get overwhelmed and we get stressed and we let our guard down. And that's when we begin to make decisions that we wouldn't normally make. We begin to do things that we wouldn't normally do, but our guard's down because we're so overwhelmed. And we start to tell ourselves that it's okay. And it's the small things, right? You know, it's like that. It's the gluttony. You know, we tell ourselves that it's okay. Well, I've had a bad day. I need a couple Little Debbie brownies. I've had a bad day. I need some ice cream. I've had a bad day. I need the buffet. It just makes me feel love. I've had a bad day. I need to just go sit down on the couch and play games. I've had a bad day. I need to go look at pornography. Sorry. I've had a bad day. I need to escape from all the stress. And so whenever we get stressed, we let our guard down. And the Bible is very clear in Proverbs 4, verse 23, that we should guard our hearts with all diligence, for out of our heart comes everything else. And so we can't let our guard down. And so I know that we are busy. Well, let's just try. Ready? If you're busy, would you raise your hand and just leave it up for a few seconds? Some of you are too busy to raise your hand. It's a couple of seconds, but if you looked around the room right now, there are hands everywhere. People are busy. And busy is kind of like the new fine. It's like, how you doing? I'm busy. How you doing? Busy. How you doing? Busy. It's like nobody says I'm good or I'm fine anymore unless you're at the church building. Because you don't want to be like, how you doing? Good. Good. Everything's great. Life is roses. And I'm like grabbing thorns, but nobody can see. Life is busy. And busy is kind of like the new badge of honor also, though. It's like, you're busy. Well, you must be successful. You're busy. Well, that means you're not lazy. Or it just means that you're really busy. And for some of us, like we wanted to do better, like we wanted to exercise more, but too busy. You wanted to eat better, but you're too busy. Drive-through is your only option, and there's no better at drive-through. You wanted to take care of things at the house, but you were too busy. The garage will get cleaned when we sell the house. The next people will clean it. You're just too busy. You wanted to hang out with your kids and spend time with your kids, but you're just too busy. And see, and we've gotten into society where we're like, pat on the back for busy people. It's like, wow, look at him go. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He just never stops. He will stop. He will die. And he will not keep going. When we run at this unsustainable pace of busy, we miss out on so much stuff that matters. And that's why we're doing this series, so we can slow down. We've kind of scheduled ourselves, and see if you can run with me on this, okay? We've scheduled ourselves into what I'm calling a life coma, where we're alive and everything works. Brain function good, heart activity good, everything is good. But we have no idea what's going on around us because we don't have enough time to stop and look at anything. And by the time that we realize it, here it is. We wonder where all the time went. Any takers? Man, we look back and we're like, man, where did this week go? Where did this school year go? Where did this November go? Where did 2016 go? Like yesterday, it was January. It's gone. Where did it all go? We've scheduled ourselves into this just oblivious world where we can't keep up with anything, and we miss it all. And I think that it's a problem. But okay, and let me just say this. I might just be preaching to me and Tracy today. So if you don't get anything, then just know that you can Facebook us and judge us all you want, because this is us. All right? This Is Us, that TV show, we would have a different show. We busy ourselves so that we feel important. Some of us do this. But when we don't accomplish everything that we've scheduled to do, we actually feel like failures. Backfire. That's fun, right? Okay. How about this? Being that it's the holidays, we have this holidays effect. And it's kind of like we're in a daze and we're confused because it's the holidays. And everything, some of us are secretly waiting for January 2nd to get here, but you can't let anybody know. Like you've got to put up Christmas decorations still and you don't even want to. Because you're just like, no, just January, come January. Because you want life to return to normal. But what if normal is your problem? What if normal is actually the issue? See, because if we run at an unsustainable pace in normal, we have to slow down or we will destroy ourselves. We have to stop and smell the coffee. And I get it. We drink so much coffee as a society because we're constantly running. So stop for a little bit and enjoy your coffee. Slow down just a little. It's going to matter. And as we slow down, this is what's really neat. As we slow down, we'll begin to notice things that we've been missing. I'm not a big NASCAR guy, and if you know me, you know that I'm not a big NASCAR guy. I know that those cars go really fast. And here's what I wrote down, though. That busyness distracts us from life. And if we are too busy, we can't slow down and we can't acknowledge the good, and we can't acknowledge the bad. We don't make time to deal with it. And like NASCAR, we're running in a circle, and we're running so fast that we miss the problems, we miss the pain, we miss the celebrations, we miss all of that stuff because we don't slow down. And in NASCAR, if you begin to have a problem with your car and you don't slow down and make a pit stop, how does that work out for you? Very badly for you and potentially for lots of other people around you. And what I've noticed is this, that we are running at this pace, and some of us have problems. Marriage is struggling, it's on the fritz. Kids are growing up, and they're growing up with parents that aren't parents. Our jobs are just pulling at everything we have, but we're not slowing down. And so, like that NASCAR that doesn't slow down and winds up destroying everything, if we don't make an intentional choice to slow down, what will we destroy? And here's what I'm going to say this. I am not okay with destroying anything in my family. I am not okay with destroying anything at my job, anything at this church. I am not okay with that, and so I have to slow down. I have to make a decision to slow down because I don't want to be distracted by things that aren't as important. and miss out on the better things. Busyness distracts us. This will be in your notes. Andy Stanley, he's a preacher, and he says this about margin, because that's the name of the series. Margin, it's building space for what matters most. Margin. Andy Stanley says, margin is the amount available beyond what is necessary. And so maybe margin looks like this. Maybe you've got to be at work at 8 o'clock in the morning and you show up at 7:50. You give yourselves 10 minutes of margin. Maybe you have a little bit of money left over at the end of the month. I hear there are people who do that. Maybe for you, margin is that you take a couple of nights or one night a week. Let's start there. And you set that aside as game night. If you've got kids, then you hang out with your kids. If you don't have kids, then you hang out with your spouse. If you don't have a spouse, then you hang out with a neighbor. You take some time and you just set it aside and say, you know what? We're going to create some space. We're going to create some margin because we're not going to run at a pace that destroys us. We've got to have space. You've got to have something left for margin. And here's another good note for you, another thing to write down. Craig Groeschel says this. He says the best things in life happen in the margins. The best things in life happen in the margins. And we're going to prove that. Ready? Let's jump in. Okay, Luke chapter 10. Listen to this story as I read this, okay? Luke chapter 10, starting in verse 38. While they were traveling, Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. And she had a sister named Mary, who also sat at the Lord's feet and was listening to what he said. So Martha and Mary living in this house, Jesus comes in, and Mary plops herself down at Jesus' feet and starts listening to him. But Martha was distracted by her many tasks. And she came up and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to serve alone? So tell her to give me a hand. This never happens at our house. We got 2 boys, and they never complain about one not helping the other. Like it's not happened yet, right? No. Jesus walks into the house. Martha's in the kitchen, right, getting everything ready, and she's got to get out the nice plates and got to clean up because, Jesus is coming. It's like the Savior of the world. We got to get things ready. It's like a big deal. But some of us, that's the way, we got family coming over. We've got to get everything organized and get everything put away. You got to get your clean dishes out and put the dirty ones in the dishwasher. We don't have time to start it. Put stuff in the closets just because it doesn't need to be on the couch. And make sure the toilet paper is facing the right direction because I don't want anybody judging me. We're so distracted by these tasks. And that's what happened with Martha. Martha got distracted by the tasks. And here's what Jesus said. Martha said, Jesus, look at her. She's lazy and she's not helping me. Make her help me. And Jesus said, Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things. And she's like, I know. One thing is necessary. Mary has made the right choice, and it will not be taken away from her. Talk about backfire. Jesus, make her help me. Martha, you're the one messing it up. Stop being distracted. Come hang out with me. I'm here. Any of you ever have family over, have friends over, and you're so caught up in the kitchen that you can't hang out with anybody? That's frustrating. So Mary and Martha were presented with the same opportunity, and Mary created a moment to praise, and Martha created a moment to complain. See, that's what happens when you live without margin, is your opportunities for praise become opportunities for complaint. When God comes in and wants us to praise him for something, we turn that into complaining about something when we don't have margin. Every moment is an opportunity for praise or complaining. You have to make the choice. Every moment is an opportunity for praise or complaining. You have to make the choice. We are like Martha, I'm afraid. We want clean houses. We want the good dishes, but we sacrifice margin. And I need you to catch this. If Satan can't make us bad, he will make us busy. If he can't make us bad, he'll make us busy. And listen, you can write it down, okay? Busy is the highway to bad. You will make the worst choices that you ever make when you're busy and stressed. And here's what happens. You spend time on the lesser things and you miss the better things when you're busy. You just do. I do. And the struggle is this, and this is so bad. The struggle is right here. Martha thought with every ounce of her being, she thought she was right. I'm standing looking at the Son of God and I'm telling him, make her do what I'm doing. She needs to be like me. She needs to be busy. She needs to be doing something. She's lazy. She's just worshiping. She's lazy. She's not accomplishing anything. Make her like me. Martha thought she was right. And most of us think that we are right too. And here's why. Because we believe that everything's normal because everybody's living a crazy life. Everybody's at a crazy pace. Everybody is stretched thin. Everyone's schedule doesn't really have any room for scheduling. You can't budget because by the time you get a budget out, everything's spent. And so we think that it's okay because everyone is like this. And I want to say this right now, and let's just declare it. And if you're with me, great. I don't want to be like everyone. Have you seen divorce rates lately? No, thank you. I don't want to be like everyone. The depression rates are through the roof, and I battle with depression sometimes, and I don't want to be like everyone. And so if everyone's running at a pace that is unsustainable, then I want to be someone who says, no, thank you. I'm going to slow down. Anybody want to be like everyone else? Look around at the world sometime and see if you're just like, yeah, I'm okay with normal. I don't want to be like that. In fact, if I'm just going to be transparent, it scares me to think that I could wind up like that. That if I don't start making some decisions to slow down and build some space, that I could wind up destroying things that matter more to me than whatever it was that I scheduled in. Does that make sense? That's scary, guys. See, broad is the road that leads to destruction. And I'd rather not be on it with everybody else. So let me say this. If everyone else is doing it, stop. Moving on. Here's some practical stuff, okay? When your margin decreases, when our personal margin decreases, when our time for ourselves, when our time for other things decreases, here are two things that happen. Your stress level increases. Your margin decreases, so you're running late everywhere. When you're running late everywhere, you tend to get into fights with people that are with you in the car, correct? Yes, of course that's correct. We all know because we all do it. You're running late, so you get stressed out about being somewhere late, and when you get there, you start to make apologies that don't really exist. You're just doing it because you're stressed. You're running late, stress increases. Money's tight, stress increases. See, when you don't have any money in margin and financial margin, you break something, not only do you have like something broken in front of you, now you've got a problem because you've got to buy a new one. You got two problems. I have a broken whatever this is, and I have no money to fix it. You've got to create that margin. You've got to create that space because when margin decreases, your stress level increases. And when your stress level increases, your relationships decrease. And that's the next thing. Your relational intimacy decreases. Your phone replaces real conversation. How many of you ever watched those people? And I know Carrie mentioned this when he was here. You watch those people at the restaurant, and all of them are at the table on their phones. It's like, what an awesome meal. So they take a photo of it. We actually went out to eat with Carrie and Sarah, and Carrie ordered this just ridiculous burger that no human should eat. And you can tag him in the video. But anyway, his burger was awesome. And so it was like necessary for him to take a photo of it. Right? Because that photo, you can send it to somebody else. And so we miss out, though, sometimes because our phones become so much our focus, and our relational intimacy decreases because we're so stressed. We're on our phones all the time. We're on the road all the time doing things that we don't necessarily have to be doing, but I don't want to spend any time at home. So I've got to schedule stuff. I've got to busy myself because I don't want to do that stuff. And this also happens with God. I've been meaning to get back into church. I was talking with a buddy of mine, and he's a pastor at a local church, and he said he went to the store with his kids, and this guy that was working at the store used to go to church with him, and so he came to him, and he's like, oh my goodness, how big is he now? And he's like, yeah, he's like 6 years old now, and he's like, man, the last time I saw him, he was like barely 1, and the guy's like, yeah, I know, and he's like, you guys still going to church and stuff? And he's like, the pastor's like, yeah, we're still there, and that guy looks at him and says, man, I've been meaning to get back. For 5 years? You didn't mean hard. If you're meaning to do something, 5 years seems like enough time to do it. It's like, I've been meaning to lose weight. For 5 years? That's enough time. It's hard, but it's just where it is. And so that happens with God. I've been meaning to read the Bible. I've been meaning to get back into prayer. I've been meaning to get back into church. But our stress level increases and our relational intimacy decreases. And it doesn't just decrease with people. It decreases at the time that we spend with God too. And so that's why we've got to build some margin. And why is it that we live marginless lives? Why is it that we do this to ourselves? We plan to slow down, but we never do. We don't get rid of what we can't afford to gain financial margin. We believe that money doesn't buy happiness, but we live like it does. We don't schedule time with the kids. We don't schedule time in community with each other. This is going to be hard, but let's just say it, okay? And maybe it's that we don't actually trust God. And I'm in this, okay? Maybe it's that we don't trust God at His Word to be all that we need for us. So we've got to be busy. We've got to be scheduling. We've got to be producing. We can't trust that He will work out the details of life. We've got to work them out. We can't trust that His plan for us is good. We've got to schedule out all of everything. Every day needs to have so full because we can't trust that God has something good for us. We've got to work hard. We've got to have the nicer house. We've got to have the nicer car to work. A nicer house, a nicer car. All those things will be better. It'll make marriage better. It'll make kids better. It'll make everything better, but it won't. And see, we've got to live like a king. Got to get everything so we can live like a king. I don't want to live like a lonely, miserable king. I like the idea of living like a king. Don't get me wrong. I want nice things. I want big things. I want great things. I want the coolest things. But I don't want those things and to lose everybody on the way to get them. Does that make sense? All right. So with that said, it boils down to potentially a case of idolatry. Our schedules are so busy because we worship approval, and we can't say no to people. Every time somebody asks for something, we have to say yes. And sometimes it's good things that they need. They need help with something, and you don't know how to say no. Because if you were to say no, then they might think less of you, and you can't handle somebody. I can't. Oh man, I am so bad about this. I can't handle people thinking less of me. So I say yes to everything. I destroy everything else, saying yes to things that might not matter as much. And so we worship approval, or maybe we worship money, and we work so hard to get as much as we can possibly get that in working so hard to get money, we forfeit everything else. We worship, and we don't even realize it sometimes. And then I think this is a really, really good one. It closets itself, man. Oh, this thing hides. We worship acclaim, applause, credit. We want people to say how awesome we are. Man, look what that guy did. He's awesome. Oh, I wish I could be like that guy. If we were going to be honest, man, I struggle with this too. Let's try it. Ready? Anybody struggle with this stuff? Like any of these things got you? Man, approval, don't think less of me, please. That just destroys me. It hurts me. Like Tracy has to hold me when you think less of me. Wait, that works out. Take some time. Money, I want money. I want more of it, but I can't forfeit everything else. Acclaim, I want people to think that I'm awesome. It's something that I've struggled with since birth. Probably. I've struggled with it for a long time. It's hard not to want to do good things in front of other people so that they'll give you a that boy or a pat on the back. It's hard not to tell people when you do good things too, isn't it? And you're like, you go and do something for somebody and then keep it a secret. It's just like got them burning up inside. You're just like, oh, I need to tell somebody what I did. You got to let them know. They're going to think I'm great. Because we're worshiping ourselves. And that's painful. But, what if our schedule, what if our lives, our budget, our scheduling, our calendar, what if all of that actually reveals our hearts? What does that stuff say about us? What does my schedule say about my heart? What does my budget say about my heart? It's time, as Craig Groeschel says, his church, they delivered this series. It's time for a come to Jesus meeting. Any of you ever been told that? Anybody ever had that? Oh, we about to have a come to Jesus meeting, and normally that means don't go. Like something really bad's going to happen. Like you might go meet Jesus if you come to this meeting. Okay? But it's time for a come to Jesus meeting. And here's the thing. Like, I don't know, when people used to say that to me, I was like, no, I'm good. I'll correct whatever it is. I don't need to go meet Jesus. But in this time to come for a time for a come to Jesus meeting, in this one, listen to what Jesus says. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, or let's just come to me, all who are stressed out. Come to me, all who are broke. Come to me, all who are struggling to make life happen. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. It's in Matthew 26. Jesus says, I'm not some mean guy who wants to take from you. I am the Lord of the universe who wants to give to you. You've got to schedule some time for me. And that's the whole point, is we've got to be intentional in our come to Jesus meeting. We've got to be intentional in actually scheduling an opportunity to come to Jesus. Let's make room for that to happen. Why? Because when we go to Jesus, the stress of life does not disappear, but we manage it better. See, problems don't go away when you come to Jesus. That's a false teaching. People teach all the time that if your faith ain't right. If your faith were right, you wouldn't have any financial struggles. That is crap. Look at the Apostle Paul. Did he have a faith problem? Probably not. He wrote most of the New Testament. I think he had faith covered. He was homeless sometimes. He was broke a lot of times. He went hungry many times. And then Jesus himself said that sometimes he didn't have food. Did he have a faith problem? I don't think so. It's not about getting all of those things right, but it is about making time, making room to come to Jesus and experience the joy of the life that he gives. And we can't do that if we're so busy. This is another good one, and this one, it's so crazy. Psalm 46:10, God actually says, be still. For how long? Be still and know that I am God. And then he says, I will be exalted among the nations. Watch this. This is so good, okay? Be still and know that I am God, and I will be exalted among the nations. When Christians learn to slow down and live lives like God is actually in control, then people will see the glory and the goodness of God. We have to be the ones who slow down and begin to trust God and to begin to live like God is the one in control and not us. I have to slow down and trust God and live like God is in control and not me. And when I am still, and when I slow down, and when I'm just being still, know God, he will be exalted. That seems easy, doesn't it? Until you try it. It's not easy. I think that, and a lot of these points, I know I'm probably coming across like a bit of a jerk today, and I'm sorry for that to a degree. I don't mean to be, but this hit me really hard this week. Just this is all over me. Something I had to do this week, and maybe you need to do it also, is stop blaming time management problems. I just need to manage my time better. Just need to manage my time better. Just need to make my schedule better. No, maybe it's that we stop blaming time management problems and start prioritizing building margin. Next week, we're going to talk about how to schedule margin and why it's so important. The week after that, we're going to talk about margin financially, and then we're going to talk about moral margin. This is what we're doing over the next 3 weeks. This is our holiday series because as I look out in the world, I think, man, the holidays have got people crazy. So let's talk about it. Let's be honest. Isaiah 58, the Lord will guide you always. He will satisfy your needs in a sun-scorched land and will strengthen your frame. You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail. Let's come back to what Craig Groeschel said. He said the best things in life happen in the margins. Tracy came up, this story made her think of this story. In John 4, we're told about Jesus, and he's walking through a town, and there's a well there, and there's this lady who's an outcast in town, and she's going to the well, and Jesus walks up to this well in John 4, and he sits down because he's tired and thirsty. He's tired and thirsty, and so he sits down. Any of you ever tired and thirsty, but you got to keep plugging? You just got to keep on going because you ain't got time to sit down. So, and I'm with you too. I'm not beating you up. I'm not mad at you. But Jesus took time to sit down and get a drink of water and have a conversation. And in so doing, Jesus changed this lady's life forever. And then that lady took the message of who Jesus was into her community, and the entire town came out to have a conversation with Jesus. See, because Jesus took time to slow down and be intentional, everyone in that community was affected by it. And I just wonder that if we were to take some time and if we were to be intentional and if we were to build some margin into our lives financially, time-wise, and morally, if we were to build some margin in, what would God do? What lives, other than our own, what lives would He impact? None of you are here today by accident. You built enough margin in to come spend an hour and 5, an hour and 10 minutes with us, and thank you for that. What if God wants to do something radical in you? He wants to use you to change not just one person, but maybe an entire community, your neighborhood. But maybe it's going to have to start with you slowing down. You can't run at breakneck pace and not break neck. Somebody's going to get hurt. We've got to slow down. Let me ask you a few questions and we'll close up, okay? What are some things that currently cause you the most stress? Doesn't take long to think of them, does it? How is that stress affecting your life? What are some specific ways you can begin the process of reducing stress in your life? Have you seen your intimacy with God and with others decrease as a result of not having margin, of not having space for those relationships? If a lack of margin is a reflection of a lack of faith, in what areas of your life do you need to place more faith in God? If a lack of margin is a reflection of idolatry in our hearts, what are some of the things that we are placing before God? And how will we go about putting God first, starting now? This message is probably a little bit all over the place, but the bottom line is this, that we've got to create a habit of building space for what matters most. We want to see change, then we have to make decisions that lead to change. Yes? Is there anyone this morning who would say, yeah, I want more margin in my life?